Welcome back to episode 52, everyone. Sorry, I have to admit, I've been the worst person on the existence of this planet, as far as the Let's Play series goes, at least. I've been very busy in real life. I've had quite a few exams going on, quite a few groups going on, or rather, club activities for my school club for computers. And then, on top of all of that, I am considering and looking into the last minute details of a senior thesis and attending several socials and trying to refine my repertoire for getting a job after school. Long and short of it all, I've been busy. I haven't even played this world since the last time. I added 2 mods before I launched, and actually, very worthwhile, by the way. I added Teslafied and just the Tesla mod itself. I didn't know that you actually had to add Tesla in order to get Tesla to work. I thought it was a packaged API like RF, where if you just had an RF using mod, then you had RF already. Nope, not that way at all. Teslafied makes RF stuff work with Tesla. Suddenly now, this guy, the quadruple battery, which uses RF from actual editions, will now power our Ender IO Ender. So I'm excited about that. That makes me happy that we have cross-mod compatibility now. We could have had it for months now, but I didn't know that that's how that worked. Nonetheless, I've set up a little bit of auto-crafting, and for today's episode, since I haven't had time to play in between episodes, you probably have guessed already that I'm going to be setting up the molecular assembler stuff that I discussed previously. Not to worry, before I started this episode, I did set up the transformer recipes, so there's actually several tiers of transformers, but we're going to skip straight to EV because we need 2 EVs for the molecular transformer. So we'll go ahead and get 2 of those auto-crafted, and hopefully that doesn't take too long. We're also going to need 4 advanced machine casings, which we seem to already have. I'm not sure if those are for another recipe, so I'm going to wait. In fact, I think they might be. Let me see. Maybe? Maybe not. I could be wrong. Then we need this MT core. And that's going to require some reinforced glass, which I actually did not think to teach my crafting ingredients down here how to make. So let's do that real quick. We'll do reinforced glass, which will not be very difficult to teach at all. And we can tell you to do that. We also may as well teach it how to make irradiant uranium, because we're going to find ourselves using these recipes a lot, as you can tell. So there's several of these recipes that we're going to want to just go ahead and teach it now, because if we have to do it ourselves, we're not going to have a very good time. But if we can go ahead and do it now, then we're not going to have such a bad time. It will be pretty straightforward. So a lot of these recipes are very repetitive as far as the advanced solar panels mod goes. Just be warned. We'll go and stick these over here, and I don't know, we'll put that there. It's shiny. Why not? And technically that should go there too. Like, this is also a battery storage device, so those should all go together. And so now we should have our 2 EV transformers. Perfect. And now if we look at the rest of the recipe, what do we have as far as circuits go? We should need 2 more advanced circuits. And then we should already have, I think, yes, I was right about already having the advanced machine casings. I wasn't sure about those, but turns out we had made those last episode. So now all we have left is to make 6 irradiant glass panes, which is not very difficult at all. Except we're missing something. Uranium. Ah, yes. Because we have a different kind of uranium, and my crafting system is expecting IC2 uranium. I'm gonna be willing to bet. So we'll do this, and teach you to use that instead. And we'll just replace this recipe. And now we should be able to craft 6 of these. Excellent. And so that should leave us with only one last thing, which is the 2 thick neutron deflectors, which is going to be, if we do the math here, let's see, we will need, for one of these, we need 2 of these, which means we need 8 of these. and 10 plates, which means we actually need 18 copper plates. So let's go ahead and get those going as well. And we also needed, let me see, because it's these that we need. Each one of these requires 4 of these. We need 2 of these. So we need 8 of these, which means we need 32 tin powder. No problem. We'll just go ahead and just hop down here. I guess we can go ahead and use this guy. And at this point, that irradiant glass should be coming pretty shortly. Right now, we're probably waiting on the reinforced or the advanced alloy to craft. Advanced alloy is not exactly the quickest. So now I'm just going to sit here and wait for the tin to finish. Alright, the tin is finished. I've requested some coal to start crafting up some dust, so hopefully we'll start getting that soon. We should have our 18 copper plates by now. And at this point, we'll just be waiting on some coal, because we're going to need, if we take a look at the neutron deflectors, each one of these is going to be something like this. So I'll go ahead and wait for the rest of that coal powder to craft up. I don't know why it's taking very long, but we'll see. It shouldn't take too much longer, I hope. I guess we'll just have to find out. Oh, you know what? I wonder if I'm making this in... I bet I'm making this in the crusher, aren't I? Yeah, it sounds like it. Crusher's not the fastest machine, but it's definitely not bad. The upside of the crusher is that we can at least guarantee ourselves that we are getting a 1-for-1 here. So I'll be back when it's done. So we should be set. There we go. 8 of these guys. And the neutron deflectors. Or reflector. Whoops. Sorry. I'm very good at saying things wrong. There we are. And now those should be good. And these should be good. And that gets us 1 MT core. And we should, if I remember the order, there we go. Molecular transformer. So this is from, regardless of what the tooltip says, I'm not sure what silliness is going on here as far as how the mod author is registering their item through industrial craft. Maybe it's just got something to do with loading order. This is actually brought by Advanced Solar Panels. It's not a native Industrial Craft 2 item. So don't let that confuse you. But nonetheless, regardless of what you may or may not think it is, we do have a few things that we can use it for, because here's what I want to do. There is, and I know solar panels are usually like the cheap way out, but there's actually a really cool solar panel. There's a few of them in the Advanced Solar Panel mod, and they start off at Advanced. The Advanced Solar Panel is a very basic tier solar panel. It doesn't really do a whole lot. It only creates 8 EU per tick, and it produces 1 at night or while raining, which is useful because that's more than you get from a normal solar panel, and 8 is 8 times what you get from a normal solar panel from industrial craft. The downside is, if you look closely, this is actually kind of expensive once you break it down to the brass tacks. The irradiant glass paint we've got auto crafting for. That's easy peasy. We already have auto crafting for the advanced alloys and the advanced circuits, and auto crafting solar panels is going to be a must and is not going to be very difficult. Where the difficulty comes is this last little piece, which is the irradiant reinforced plate. Again, not very difficult with these 7 components, but the last 2 are pretty tough. The sunarium part does not want to show up for some reason. That's strange. I wonder if my recipes are broken. Goodness, I hope not. Oh, wow. Yeah, all of my molecular transformer recipes are broken. Let me see if I can fix that real quick. There we go. I got it to work. And so, as you can see, it's not exactly easy to get these sunarium parts. It's a piece of glowstone dust, and sure, that looks pretty simple, but then you take a look and see that it requires 1,000,000 EU to make 1 of these. It's pretty expensive, needless to say. And so, as a result, a lot of times people may not consider using it, or just may not consider it being such a good idea to implement. But I think it's still fun and worth using. So I think we should go ahead and try to make ourselves a few of these solar panels, because as you progress through the tiers, it actually gets more and more and more worthwhile, to the point that it's actually really profitable to use these. So I have no idea where I should put these. I'm just gonna kind of, or where I should put the Molecular transformer, actually, is what I mean specifically. But why don't we take a look at behind here? We can just kind of... Oops. Yeah, it's not the end of the world. And so what we can do is take a look and see. I think I should have an HV wire coming down, because they allow for HV... Yep, there we go. Perfect. These guys will allow HV input. There's my fork. I knew I had one somewhere. So, with an HV input in, this is going to mean that we can essentially have as much power as possible going into this guy now. Some would debate whether or not that's advisable. I personally just don't care. So, that's my 2 cents on the matter. And I want to see if I can get this to update. There we go. There's a weird little bug with Minecraft and the lighting nature with these IC2 cables, but it's not that bad. So ideally, we should be able to cover this up. Oops, that should have been planks. And of course, you're probably wondering, well, what am I going to do about that? Well, I really think we have made a CF... Have we not made a CF sprayer? Well, why don't we do that? Why don't we make a CF sprayer? So, a CF sprayer is going to take construction foam and construction powder. So we have one fluid solid canning machine. We should probably look into making another one. And so that means we're going to need another transformer upgrade. And so, let's see, we will need 2 of you. This is really nice that we can just kind of come here and say, this is what I need. And we're going to need 1 of these guys, which might take just a second. In fact, we're going to need another one of those. And then we're going to need an MV transformer. And then once we get our MV transformer, that should get us everything that we need to make the transformer upgrade that we'll need for our second fluid solid canning machine, because we're going to make another one. And for the second one we're going to have, we will use it, let me see, canning machine, there we go, it's going to be this one. For the second fluid solid canning machine that we're going to have here, make sure that's not going to be hooked up to power, correct. And now I should be able to safely connect that to power. Perfect. Beautiful. Excellent. This guy is going to be used for water, and our water we're just going to have to get from buckets, which is fine. It's not really going to be a big deal, because I think we're really just going to have maybe a little bit, but not a whole lot of stone dust. So this guy has just distilled water as the input coming from the distillers out there. But this guy we're going to have, let's see, we can drain, and using the drain function, we'll go ahead and just snag these so this is faster. We can drain the water out of our buckets and into here, and then just switch the tanks. So now that we have these here, we're going to want to make some CF powder, which is going to be pretty straightforward to make, but oh wait, we need stone dust. So we're going to need to make a thermal centrifuge, which is going to take a little while, so I'm just going to go and make that off camera, because quite frankly, thermal centrifuges are a pain in the butt to make, and it's going to take me forever to get the episode done if I don't just do it off camera. Alright, here's our thermal centrifuge. Fortunately, it is tier 2 power as well, so we can just hook it straight up, and the last thing that we want to do for it as well is we wouldn't mind getting an inverter. So what you're going to notice is as soon as I put this inverter in, there's this very small little bar here that's going to start to increase. And as it increases, we're actually going to find ourselves getting more and more efficient at processing what we want to process. Now in this case, to get stone powder, what we want to do is thermally centrifuge it to get, or thermally centrifuge cobblestone into stone dust. So like I said, very slow process. You can speed this up a little bit, but the problem is that it only goes so fast. You see, I can speed this up here, but then, and we got 1 stone dust, that's great, But you're going to notice that now we're completely out of power, and so we've basically negated all of its functionality. So I generally suggest just leave it, accept the fact that it's going to be a slow process, and, you know, don't really think too much on it. It's not really a big deal. But that's fine, because while that may take a little bit of time to put together and finish running, we do have one hope at least. And that's the fact that I've got other stuff that I need to do as well. So as soon as I wake up from this nap, we can start working towards making ourselves the CF sprayer, which we're going to need in order to use the CF foam that we're going to need. So the CF sprayer is very cheap. In fact, it's just 3 pieces of iron item casing. So let me teach my system how to make iron item casings. I don't think I have. And that's not going to be very difficult to do, thanks to this guy right here. And, actually, yeah, or dictionary should be fine, but let me just go ahead and grab an iron plate to be certain. Now, what I've done, if you remember last episode when we set up all of the machine auto-crafting, I had set it up so that I had I had a rolling machine for, I think it was extruding. One of these was, I think, in extruding mode, or there was another one. I've changed it so that now I've got 2 of these in rolling mode. So this guy is for our casings, and this guy is for our non-casings. Now what I'll probably end up doing is splitting the load up a little bit, just kind of like how I did here with the alloy smelters. That way we don't end up having to wait too long on certain processes, but we can go ahead and request ourselves the 3 item casings that I need, and just run on back, and probably by the time we get back upstairs, a lot of stuff that we're waiting on will be done. So the CF sprayer is going to just be those. Beautiful. Done. And we only needed 6 pieces of stone dust, so now that that is done, we can also make ourselves a small piece of CF powder. This is why it's kind of a pain in the butt, but that's okay. So now if we change this to enrich mode, we'll put our CF sprayer in here first, and then put the CF powder in, and it's going to empty into here, and you see now we have 1,000 millibuckets, or 1 bucket of construction foam. That's great and dandy. There's only one last thing that we want to do, and that is get an obscurator. So an obscurator is going to let us cover up our blocks that we're about to essentially facade, because the entire goal of what I'm doing right now is to cover up our cables. And the problem with IC2 is that the cables are neither MC multi-part compatible, nor are they like Ender IO facadeable. They have their own system, which isn't bad. It's somewhat difficult to interact with, but that's okay. So we can work around, or not work around it, but do it the way that they intend by essentially, we'll go ahead and make the cable, and making the obscurator here is what they intend for us to do. So the obscurator is going to require some energy. And so what we'll do is we'll put down, we already have our cable down, my apologies. And this guy takes a good bit of power. It's very surprising, but it does. It takes quite a decent amount of power. But it's getting more and more full. And full. Perfect. So now if you shift right click on the block you want it to represent, you'll see the block is sort of being shown up here. Pardon the emotes from Quark. I don't ever use them, but the little button's still there. But you can see that the texture that it's mimicking is actually stored on the face of the texture of the item. And you'll see that we also lost a little power. So what we can do is with a piece of sand and our CF sprayer, we can right click to cover up the glass fiber cable. Now you can see in Wayla it still says glass fiber cable, and if I right click with a piece of sand, it's going to instantly harden it. And this is the default construction foam texture. But if we wanted to paint it, we just right click with our obscurator and boom. Now you can't even tell that that's not what it's supposed to be. Lastly, let's put down the molecular transformer. The reason that I was doing all of this was so that we could have it so that you couldn't tell that beneath it was actually a cable. Because I like this here actually. I don't think that that's going to be a problem being there, but definitely don't see any purpose in making all that big of a mess of the floor there just to have the block there. And that's probably my biggest complaint that I have with the molecular transformer, is that because of the shape of the block, it's really hard to wire it in any way that doesn't look completely atrocious unless you do what I did. So now we needed, what was it for? It was a piece of glowstone for our first level solar panel. So we can go ahead and tell it to get started. And you can see that even running through 512 EU per tick straight from our output here. And this is draining quickly now. Our MFE is draining pretty substantially. You've got to consider our MFE stores 4 million, and this is going to take 1 million. So I can only make 4 of these on 1 MFE charge. Just things to consider. So, while this works on that, there's a few other things that we need to actually make, because the solar panel had 2 pretty big painful components, if you recall, for the advanced solar panel at least. So the first step of the advanced solar panel was, of course, the scenarium part here. The second piece is this reinforced iridium plate. And the reinforced iridium iron plate, is 4 of the advanced alloys and 4 of the carbon plates. We already have those auto-crafting. We have iron plates being auto-crafted. What we don't have is iridium ingots being auto-crafted. This is going to require iridium ore, which you can either craft using a molecular assembler, or you can find it. And I've actually found a little bit, so we can save ourselves quite a lot of hassle. So we can actually come over here and compress it in our compressor. There we are. And you can compress these little shards into the ore. And for now, this will work. But later down the road, once we get more energy coming in, we're definitely going to want to just teach our molecular transformer how to make the iridium ore straight from scratch from a piece of iron. Because that recipe, this recipe here, is much easier than IC2's method of getting iridium. Short of finding it in dungeon, you can just waste hours and tons of energy creating the UU matter for it. I think that method is excruciatingly painful. I won't lie, I think it's the worst method on the face of this planet. So, while we are pretty close to done here, we can go ahead and start looking into, let's see, iridium ore. If we take this and compress it, we'll get an ingot out of that. And now we can go ahead and take our... We said we were going to need 4 of these, as well as 4 of these, correct? And so we'll go ahead and let these craft up, and I believe downstairs our scenarium should be just about done. Yes, it is. And this is where things get a little bit fun. We're almost done. We have a few things that we can start crafting. I taught my machine setup how to make solar panels, so that's fantastic. We're going to save ourselves some time there. We are going to need 3 of the irradiant, 3 of these, and then we also wanted 2 of these and 2 of these. So now I'm just gonna wait, because we seem to have a lot on our chest. So how's that for tier 1? So the reason that I made this one is because it has an upgrade path that I am interested in. From here we can move from the advanced solar panel either to one of 2 options. Both of these are pretty expensive, mind you, but they're both also worthwhile. The hybrid solar panel is... I'm trying to remember exactly what the statistics are on hybrid. I believe it is 64 EU per tick during the day and then 8 at night. And then the ultimate, if I remember correctly, is 512 EU per day and 64 at night / raining. And if that's the case, then either one of these are really fantastic upgrades, but you gotta look at the recipes here for just a minute, because they get a little bit ridiculous. So we have the iridium ore that I've told you. Remember, each one of these iridium ore is going to cost more EU than our MFE currently even stores. So we might want to be a little bit considerate of that, because we don't exactly have a ton of iridium. How much do we have? 20? Yeah, 20 is only going to make us 5 of the iridium reinforced plates. And so we've got to use these wisely, because of course we're going to need a ton of these if we want to do some of these more high-end crafting recipes. So the scenarium part is going to be probably the most difficult piece, but we should probably look into just making the mid-tier solar for now, the hybrid solar panel. I feel like this is a good place to move next, because everything here seems relatively affordable. Like I said, the scenarium here is pretty much the most expensive piece, which is just a block of glowstone and 9 million EU. Of course, we'll go ahead and just get started. Why not? And I'll be back whenever everything is pretty much done, because everything else you've pretty much already seen me craft. So you know what, you guys? Screw it. I have a plan. We're going to take these, And we're going to get rid of them. The phantom faces are no more. And I'm going to get rid of all the item conduit stuff that we've got going on here as well. Because I've decided I no longer have any interest in dealing with the nonsense that is the slow generators we have here. I mean, we've got some really slow generators you have to consider. And it looks like we also have a very long cable line coming down here, so it's cool that we can get rid of that now. I always like getting rid of extra cabling. And if my inventory just then didn't give it away, my plan is I'm going to replace all of our normal generators with geothermal generators running off of infinite lava from... Oh, wow, you can see the construction foam actually came all the way down. Using lava that's coming from a blood magic ritual, because we've been making all this infinite blood anyways, all this infinite life essence anyways, so we may as well actually freaking use it, don't you think? Now, while I'm at it, I have already taught my system how to craft an MFSU from MFEs, of course, and part of the process there will be not exactly difficult, but we definitely want to make sure that everything is working out okay. But I guess step one is to just break our generators, because at this point, we don't even need them. And I'm just gonna go ahead and disconnect this power line here as well, just to be sure we're not wasting any power. And one of the downsides of auto smelting, of course, is that thanks to the stone brick recipe for cracked stone bricks being a thing, I'm always going to end up inevitably losing power. I don't really care anymore. Or not power, but bricks. Like, I'll always end up getting these cracked stone bricks, but I'm not going to cry about it. It's not really something I really particularly care about too much. I requested some extra ender fluid conduits earlier, which is fantastic that those seem to be done. And so now we can go ahead and craft ourselves our 10 geothermal generators. Geothermal generators are fantastic because they produce a substantial amount of power from just lava. Nothing more than just plain old lava. Very simple to interact with. So, I think they're pretty great. That's just my opinion. But, whatever. So, we will use some ender fluid conduits and the Serenade of the Nether to get ourselves our lava all the way up here to our machines. And so we're going to need to just tell this guy to, we'll do disabled, and we will tell this guy to insert on an empty blacklist. And in fact, if I was wise, I would copy that setting. Oops. Did not want to do that. No big deal, though. And we'll tell these guys once again, don't connect. It doesn't actually make a real big difference here, but I always like to just be efficient with my connections. No point in saying, you know, go for it if there's no point in them being able to go for it. So we will say insert, 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 and insert. Glorious. So now, like I said, the lava is going to be coming from a Serenade of the Nether, which I've already got everything hopefully together. Oh, why do I feel like I'm forgetting something? There should be a Master Ritual Stone in there somewhere, and I forgot to make that. Let me make that real quick. Actually, I should already have everything I need for it, so that's very fortunate. And let's see. Master Ritual Stone is just going to be a normal Ritual Stone, which I should already have. And then let's see. Master Ritual Stone is that right? Okay, sure, go for it. I've never actually paid very close attention to the fact that those recipes are so very similar. But that's fine. And once again, we can actually connect ourselves up to these cables. Just like that. I don't see any problem here. And if we have our Master Ritual Stone, I actually don't know what the area of effect is of this ritual. Rather, what size it requires. So we're just going to start here. Oh, okay. That's very straightforward, actually. Perfect. So that's it. And I can just clean this up, I guess. So, yeah, that actually wasn't very difficult at all. I've never really looked into the rituals all that much, so that's why most of the time when it comes to those kinds of things, I'm a complete, just total dingus. I don't really know much about them, to be honest. Now, I do want to see if I can come up with a clever way of getting our stuff routed over here, but I'm not really seeing that happening, which is fine. We'll just go ahead and do this. And just do that. Perfect. And we will sit right here. We want the fluid collector always on. Yeah, that works. And then we will tell you to extract always active and empty blacklist. And now, as soon as I say weak activation crystal, wow, that's actually working. Now, to avoid lighting updates, I'm just going to do that. That seems to really help. And now, all of our geothermal generators are running, and they're getting filled up with lava, and we should be producing a pretty respectable amount of power. Now, I'm curious why this had already drained, but that's fine. I'm not terribly concerned by that, to be honest. And I couldn't tell you without having an EU reader how much EU we're actually producing from our geothermals here. But it's something. I mean, I know it's got to be more than 0. So there is that much. So at this point, we can kind of rest assured that for now, at least, we have a decent amount of power going on. But I do want to just conduit this stuff, or conduit facade some of this stuff up. So give me a little while, and I'm just going to make probably I think 6 or 7 or a few facades. So that looks better, don't you think? So the last thing that I want to do, however, is I want to make an MFSU. So we'll go ahead and keep the MFE that we have now. I don't really want to get rid of that. So we'll make an MFSU, and we're also going to need to make a transformer. So we currently have an MV transformer coming up here. But what we want actually is an HV transformer to transform from high voltage down to medium voltage. Medium voltage is going downstairs, both to our machines on the auto crafting system, as well as to the molecular transformer here. Both of these are getting medium voltage. And then up here, or rather, they're getting high voltage. Sorry. And then this guy here is going to be stepping down the power to medium voltage. And the reason this is important is because we want the HV transformer to convert our EV down to HV, which is what this is outputting. But the reason we want the MFSU in the first place is because we want to be able to store all that power, because we have tons of power coming up here, and yeah, it'll be important to have, in my opinion. So you can see we're actually draining through our lava very quickly. Fortunately, the blood magic system has been able to keep up. I just went and checked on it earlier to be sure, and if we look here, the divination sigil says that we are filling. It looks like there's a net loss for a little while, but then if you keep an eye on it, it's actually a very slow net gain. But I'm glad that we finally have something to use this for. Plus, you have to consider the fact that once we neutralize, once we no longer are at a point where we need to, and I can actually possibly save myself some LP. I recently updated Blood Magic and they fixed the fact that those don't use power. But once this neutralizes and these are no longer constantly running, we won't even really be using that much lava anymore, and so that our blood network won't really be strained at all. So I'll be back when the MFSU is done crafting. There's a lot of ingredients in the process of crafting an MFSU, and probably also a lot in the HV transformer process. So, oh yeah, it looks like right now we're just waiting for a bunch of metals from the metal presses, or metal formers. And there we have it. An MFSU has been crafted. So let's go ahead and break down our cable. Bring this MFE with us. Put down the MFSU. Not connecting to anything, you notice. And now, if we put down... I'm just going to disconnect this cable. I'm very afraid. If we put down... Let me make sure that my math is correct here. I don't want to blow up my machines mostly because that does still happen now. These have 2 transformer upgrades. So these will accept the right voltage. So this is going to step it down. And this is the input phase. So we need to shift right click to reverse that. And that should be the output phase. I think I did that right. I hope I did that right. Let me just grab a piece of gunpowder and try to extract it. Yeah, okay, good. So we did that right. Yay, no explosions. That's great. And so there we have it. I think finally, for the first time in a very long time, we have a productive episode. So I'm sorry that I've been very terrible about the videos. I know most of you guys have been understanding, but I still feel bad. I feel like I should be contributing something. Between school stressing me out and programming stuff that I've been needing to program, I just haven't really felt motivated nor had the time to be able to do videos. So I hope you guys forgive me, but I, also hope that this video and a few of the future ones that I plan on making make up for that. And so I will see you guys next time. And, one other thing is I think we might as well just go ahead and use our MFE just because we can. And we can do this. We'll put our MFE right there. And now this is completely filled up, which has always bothered me previously, but there we go. We have an extra buffer. Alright, well, that'll call it. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.